Awesome. So welcome everyone to Lightning Round Fast Pitch. Thank you all for coming. Super excited to have everyone here. My name is Timothy Greenfield. I help with business development at Spark, and I'll be your host and moderator for today. Some of you might be familiar with some of our past events like West Coast Challenge or Scalable 2, which was also virtual. With the idea of Lightning Round, our goal today is to condense great ideas and pitches into what the name might suggest, a fast-paced, short form event where top entrepreneurs go head to head for the exposure they deserve and the resources they need to keep going. So today's format begins with a panel discussion with our awesome judges. We brought together an amazing panel of industry professionals and investors from a variety of backgrounds to give our entrepreneurs today the best feedback and network access possible. So next, we'll begin the fast pitch. We've had a crazy number of applications and we've narrowed down to just 5 great startups that will be introduced later on. They will only have a 3-minute window to pitch our panel and will be scored on traction, team, product, and go-to-market. And for the winning pitch, up for grabs today is access to Spark's premium perks package worth $500K and one-on-one marketing consulting hours with our friends at HubSpot. So let's jump in. I'm super excited to announce our panel today. It's my pleasure to introduce and welcome Sunny Singh. Sunny is now recently president of TCLA. He is a successful technical founder and investor. Sunny, can you please tell us a bit more about what you do and your background?
Yes, thank you, Tim. Great to be here. Great to meet everyone. Congratulations to the startups on being selected. I'm current president of Tech Coast Angels here in Los Angeles. I'm an angel investor. I'm involved in the venture capital community very heavily, and I have a background in engineering, mostly electrical engineering and computer science. I founded 2 startups, one in the IT cybersecurity space and one in the med tech devices space. And that's basically me. I do quite a few little things on the side too. Commercial real estate and a few other things.
Thank you, Sunny. Welcome. So next, I'd like to introduce Sharon Revinder, North America Director of Invest in Grenoble Alps and board member at the Los Angeles Venture Association, or LAVA. Welcome, Sharon. Please tell us a little bit more about you.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I encourage everyone to go head over to lava.org to learn more about the Los Angeles Venture Association. I'm on the board there and on the executive committee, and I also help run Global Lava with a co-chair. And in my day job, I help people understand opportunities, help North American and Canadian companies understand opportunities in the Grenoble area and the larger Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes region, which is a #2 powerhouse region in France. And I mostly deal with tech companies because of the expertise and research going on in Grenoble and the ecosystem. So it's all, microelectronics, med tech devices, things like that, renewable energies. So we also run a program called FAZE, French Alps International Soft Landing Exchange. And it's there that I've had a little bit of experience in startup competitions. So I'm very, very pleased to be a judge here. And I actually know one of the participants, one of the 5 companies today from he's been over to Grenoble. He's in the sensors technology area. You'll learn more. So that makes perfect sense for my area. So I'm happy to meet you all and to participate. Thanks again.
Thank you, Sharon. Welcome. So I'm happy to also welcome Patrick Driscoll to the panel. Patrick is the venture lead for BMNT and formerly of 500 Startups. Patrick, thank you. Please tell us a little bit more about your background.
Thank you, Timothy, and congrats again to the 5 finalists. So yeah, I'm the venture lead with BMNT. It's an organization that helps solve problems kind of at the government level through the commercial sector. And my specific role is managing a portfolio of 21 companies in the kind of dual use enterprise sector. So I help to source those companies, and then we actually invest in them and they go through a 6-month program. And and then I'm also a part of H4X Labs, which is under the BMNT umbrella, which works to accelerate earlier stage companies, specifically in the dual use space. Before I was in 500 startups as the global investor education manager, where I basically helped global ecosystem development for startups. And then finally, I'll mention I am the chair for the Venture Capital and Fundraising Board for Start Out, which is an LGBTQ plus affinity group focused on empowering those types of founders, and also a Venture Scout venture partner for Gangels, which is an LGBTQ plus angel syndicate. So lots going on.
That's awesome. Thanks, Patrick. Welcome. Next, please welcome Jamila Jackson. She is a PR expert and founder and director of Startup Grind Hollywood. Jamila, please tell us more.
Hi, thank you, Timothy. Hello, everyone. Excited to be here with you all today, and another huge congratulations to everyone that is in the contest. I am the chapter director for Startup Grind. We're a global organization. Well, I'm the chapter director. I run the Hollywood chapter, what I meant to say, but we are a global organization, and we work to educate, inspire, and connect entrepreneurs and startups of all stages. My community here in Hollywood is primarily focused on, we welcome and help and offer resources to startups of all genres, all types, but we specifically in Hollywood focus on digital media and entertainment, and helping to bridge the gap between those in our ecosystem. I've done PR in entertainment for a number of years, so really excited to see a couple entertainment and media companies in the competition. And I also work in the music industry as an A&R consultant. And like he also said, we all have a bunch of other little side hustles that we do, right? But those are my primary duties. And then I forgot to mention also that we do have a signature event series that we do with Startup Grind that will hopefully be coming back to the in-person format pretty soon. But we are doing virtual and hybrid at the moment, and it's a networking platform for our entrepreneurs to meet with investors, and we connect them with all sorts of different other programs, accelerators, and all of that. So yes, good luck, everyone. Excited to be here today.
Thanks, Jamila. Glad you're here. So finally, and certainly not least, please welcome Paul Orlando. He is adjunct professor of entrepreneurship and director of the Startup Incubator at USC. Welcome, Paul. Please tell us a little bit more about you.
Thanks, and good to see everybody. So just a little more about me. I'm really fascinated by and really invested in that early stage founder experience. So it goes back to my old personal experience of starting a startup in New York and running that for a couple of years and making just about every mistake along the way. And from there, I went on and I have run 3 different startup accelerators around the world. I ran the first program in Hong Kong, I ran a program in Rome, and I've been at USC, both running the Marshall Greif Incubator, which is open to any team with at least one founder with a connection to USC. So that often means they are students, it often means alumni, and we have some faculty and staff run businesses as well. We've had about 150 companies come through, a very broad range of business types and stages, everything from undergrads working out of their dorm rooms and bootstrapping their way along to a recent $50 million Series B, but very wide range of company types, and people join for the guidance, they join for the community also. And also at USC, I teach, recently I'm teaching a class in growth hacking. So if you're interested in potentially getting a team of students to work with you on your own startup's distribution, feel free to reach out. But really great to meet everybody and looking forward to today's event.
Thank you, Paul. So thank you again and welcome, judges. It's really exciting to have you all on today, and you definitely have made this event really awesome. Or you're going to make this event really awesome. So with that, let's start our panel discussion. So to start off, the first 10 minutes or so of our discussion, let's begin with a more global topic. So it isn't news that startup funding activity is exceptionally high, despite the pandemic, geopolitics, and relatively non-financial but disrupting recession. Considering these major influences over the last year, in what ways do you think the quest for founders looking for funding has changed at all, if at all? Sunny, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I don't think it has impacted founders as much as it has funders. And so I'm seeing a lot more companies being formed, many more startups coming in, higher valuations overall. And so I believe that this is an ideal time to raise. This might be the lull before the actual storm. And if people are raising funding, this would be the best time to raise. Waiting another couple of years might be detrimental to just the valuations and the ability to raise capital. I don't see a tremendous impact from the pandemic, especially on certain industries, software, um, biotech. These are doing really well. Media and film obviously have taken a little bit of a hit, but they're coming back. So I would raise now if people were interested.
Got it. Patrick, you want to follow up with that?
Sure. Yeah, no, I think we were expecting there to be a massive effect due to the pandemic in terms of, or I was anyway, I know several folks that I spoke with were expecting a massive effect, and then the industry specifics around the pandemic and health tech and those types of industries would kind of explode, and then transportation, tourism, those types of things would actually, you know, lose a lot of kind of trajectory, and that didn't really happen. There's been also a large scale growth in alternative capital sources for startups, which has been fascinating around venture debt, and then the SEC shifting the crowd funding rules. So those I think have also opened up doors to founders that otherwise might be a little bit scared of venture, or they might be too early for venture and not quite sure how to navigate. So it's been exceeding my expectations, and I think it just speaks to the tenacity of entrepreneurial folks that a little thing like a global pandemic can't really keep you down. And yeah, I guess I'll end on that. So it's looking good, and I'll leave it up to my fellow panelists to expand more.
Karen?
Yeah, I think probably what investors are looking for hasn't changed very much, but the markets maybe have. So I think probably founders have to really have a good grip on, you know, what the markets are, how they've changed. Is their solution, you know, what is the market for their solution? And then I think there's also been a change, sort of a shift to more inclusion and diversity. And I think that came along with, you know, certain, like you said, biotech, like people have said biotech and, you know, med tech stuff and software things that we all use so much more than we did, and hardware. But I think there's also a shift toward an openness to diversity and actually seeking it out that maybe we didn't see before all this. And it's not just because of the pandemic, it's because of everything that we've been living through. But I think the founders should have, you know, their pitch deck is probably more important, because you can't run into somebody at a conference and meet somebody in a hallway or, you know, in a cafe or whatever. So I think that's probably even more important than it already was.
Jamila?
Yes, and to piggyback off of what Sharon said, I definitely agree about, you know, the increased amount of diversity and inclusion and amount of investors that are actually looking for founders of color, the amount of grant programs out there, the amount of alternative funding outside of investors is just amazing. I mean, just overall, we've seen an increase in founders, right? People starting businesses, because I think one of the things that investors have always looked for has been people solving problems, and we have a whole new set of problems So I think that that is what urged a lot of people, you know, sitting at home, obviously with a little bit more time on their hands, some of us, to start these businesses because they, you know, incurred these problems and they were like, I need to fix this. So I definitely love seeing that, you know, overall. That's my 2 cents.
Awesome. Paul, please.
Well, I really agree with everything you know, the other panelists have already shared. The only thing I might add is that, you know, if you are, you know, say, considering starting a startup, so you're really like really early stage or even concept stage, a way that you might step through that question is, well, what is riskier? Is it riskier for me to go out and get the traditional job, or is it riskier for me to start a company? And you know, a lot of the elements of starting something up have been de-risked. You know, largely, it's, you know, it is in general cheaper to build, you know, companies these days. Of course, that's a trend that's been happening for a generation. Greater access to capital, whether it is, again, you know, traditional, like, you know, VC or angel sources, or if it's, you know, crowdfunding. But you actually might find that through working on a startup of your own, you might put yourself in a better place, even if it doesn't work out, but put yourself in a better place, and, you know, give yourself just additional options, you know, to either go on to the next one or into like a role with a more established company. But yeah, those are, I mean, those are some of the, you know, the changes that I think, you know, founders today are also thinking about and dealing with.
Fantastic. Thanks for all the great insight. So shifting gears just a little bit, we have some questions directed towards each of your particular backgrounds. And judges, feel free to jump in and piggyback off those questions if you have any burning thoughts. So starting with Paul, you've written a great blog series on unintended consequences now on over, or I think it's 100 different topics now. Can you tell us a bit more about your synopsis behind the project?
Sure. So this was something I'm not sure I knew that you were reading actively, Tim. So glad that you discovered that. If you just look for Unintended Consequences blog, you should find it. But this was a project that I started a couple of years ago, really just to educate myself on systems, and especially systems that were emerging out of high growth startups or even new government policy changes related to tech. So I will go into, you know, a lot of new developments, either with, you know, these fast growth companies or, you know, new changes in tech. And you know, I wrote this really just to educate myself, and I wasn't really sharing it that much in the beginning. But what ended up happening as people discovered it was I started getting into contact with a very different mix of people that I was used to talking to. So people with, roles in risk or in, you know, government agencies and other researchers. And so it's been, you know, like a fascinating experience for me, and it's, you know, again, it's kind of educated me a lot. Yeah, if you are interested in, you know, in checking that out, it's the two very long and difficult to spell words, unintended consequences, but with the dot before the ES. So if you're ever interested in how companies like, for example, you know, Airbnb, Uber, Lyft, other, like, you know, autonomous vehicle, you know, related, you know, businesses might have might result in outcomes that are different than expected or intended, you might find something there of interest.
Yeah, and so I think if you do just search up Paul Orlando, you'll see his blogs, and also that he's written books. He wrote most recent one, Growth Units, correct, about how to properly calculate the CAC and LTV, right? And so if you are a founder, please read that book. I've read it.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, and so one of the topics you've written about on the unintended consequences is the unintended consequences of anything at scale. You talk about what will happen at scale can be unknown, and that great growth is chaotic, especially given our bias in certain contexts. What can this look like for startups on the cusp of real growth, and what guidance do you offer today's cohort?
So it's challenging. right? Because the startup founders are, they're not necessarily rewarded for thinking of all those follow-on effects, right? They're rewarded for either what they are publicly saying they will do, or they're rewarded for like that first step that impacts their business directly. And they're not necessarily, rewarded for caring about what happens to, the displacement of another group, by their, by their new service. So, like some of the, I think the better known examples of this are, for example, with Airbnb in certain small markets or markets that are, say, resort towns. Airbnb driving out the ability of locals who live in that little town to actually be able to afford, the housing that's there. If it's better for a landlord to, rent an apartment out for the 3-month busy season, why would you give somebody a 12-month lease? Similar, like a big impact from rideshare businesses was on taxi drivers, right? If taxi drivers are investing in a taxi medallion, so like that right to drive a taxi, and the medallion itself is previously it's the largest investment they've made and what they hope to retire on, and all of a sudden that asset is no longer worth what it was expected to have been worth. You have these groups that you might say, on the average, people are better off. I'm not saying, of course, do not innovate. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying we should also pay attention to some of the groups that are displaced by really rapid growth. But I think like looking at these examples, you can learn something about the way that you might want your business to behave, or even say like an agency in terms of like a municipal government to behave. We have to have that balance of taking care of making sure that we encourage innovation, but also thinking about what happens for people who will be out of a job, say worse off, temporarily. Like how do we also help them level up or accommodate some of that displacement?
Yeah, those are really good points. Do any of our panelists have anything to add on just the chaos of growth and scale?
Then I'll add one, if nobody else wants to jump in, I'll add one quick thing, which is, there's a lot of attention, or a lot more attention, I think, recently to, startups at a certain level of maturity being pushed to grow maybe a little too quickly. And this is by, in some part, like the ease of access of investment dollars. So if you're putting a lot into, say, for example, paid growth, but the business model is not supporting that, the margins are not there, so you're acquiring customers, but you're losing them just as fast, or you're losing money per customer, as there are some examples of that happening. You might think about, is that really sustainable? And what's going to happen if you're not able to raise that future round, if the the funding environment changes in the future? So so you referenced that that growth units book that I wrote, that I use in one of my classes now. We look at that a lot in that book. Where is there a mismatch in pouring money into like top of the funnel growth, but you're losing everything as you are churning people through? So as a startup, once you get to a stage like that, you might think, okay, like what would I need to do in order to grow in a sustainable way? And can I do that without like sacrificing some of the attractiveness of my business as an investment? Can I maybe persuade some of the investors that in some cases might be trying to push me for faster growth, that actually it makes more sense to build something that's more sustainable over a little longer term? But but it's a difficult topic for many people.
I'll quickly add, I think an interesting case study that we're in the midst of is taking a look at Clubhouse. Their explosive growth is something that I've been watching, and how they're going to strategically figure out how to not lose sight or track of their focus. And I know there are other people watching it, other VCs and investors that are curious to see what their team is able to do, which is going to be a case study, I think, in how to do it well or how to do it not well. So only time will tell. So I recommend folks to follow along with their story.
Yeah, and to add to Patrick's point, the one I've been following is Picasso. It's a real estate company, prop tech, property technology. They've also grown extremely fast. I think they went from starting to $1 billion in valuation in 5 months or so. So yeah, I want to see how they get out of that rut, because unless they deliver, there's nowhere else to go but down.
Thanks, guys. So Sharon, this one's for you.
Yes.
You are pretty much a bridge between Europe, specifically France, and the US in the startup community. What is, or what are some key aspects that you look for in a good startup candidate for the tour of both ecosystems, either coming from France or coming from the US?
Yeah, I think, you know, not every ecosystem is right for every startup. So I talked about me helping people with opportunities in France, but I also end up helping the companies from the region when they're looking for opportunities in the US. And lately, I've been, if it's a company that's doing sensors in oil and gas, they should look at certain places in the United States and Canada. It becomes pretty clear. And now I think with this sort of mobile funding that everyone has, you don't have to necessarily be in the Silicon Valley to get funding, even if that's where a lot of the funding is in tech. I think that this will make interactions with the ecosystems, if it's the right type of product where you can get, perhaps help with your research and help with in visibility via their their clusters and their different associations and trade associations. So I think that there's not one straight answer. So it depends on the technology, and obviously everyone has to have a good handle on their IP and a good handle on the feasibility of their solution. So I think those are two of the most important points. And then after that, you have to figure out, which investor is the best for them and which ecosystem is the best for them. I don't think it has to be the same place anymore. That's my impression.
Can you also walk us through the intersection of your work with Lava? I mean, you're involved with a bunch of super interesting organizations. So the intersection with Lava, French Cluster, Renewable Alps, and I think I'm missing a few. And
yeah.
what are some of the major trends you're seeing with the European and US startup kind of a community?
Well, Lava, I was first a member of Lava, and I would attend their networking events in the sectors that were of interest to me. So you could do that quite a lot. Thank you, Len, back in the day. And then I became more involved when they needed someone to pick up the global Lava community. And I just think it's an exciting place to be, right, between funders and entrepreneurs. So I guess the idea is with Lava is to be this. Darren Eng now is the executive director, and he's trying to make it kind of a mesh network, because there's so many active innovation players and in Southern California, that we should all try to work together rather than each run in our own little corner. So that was the idea, and that was really music to my ears, because I think I cover North America, so it's very hard to know everything about everyone. So my initial reason for coming to Lava, and also I'm involved in a group called French Cluster, which is a group of French or French American sort of experts in a certain realm, in a certain area. We're all complementary, so nobody steps on each other's toes, and we all try to, in good faith, help people who are coming to the Los Angeles area. So anyway, it was that same idea. But I think that the ecosystem pairing is becoming on the forefront, and we did that with our French Alps International Startup Exchange. We teamed first with British Columbia, Canada, for various reasons, and Grenoble is a sister city of Phoenix, Arizona, for example. We have stuff going on in North Carolina. So anyway, being that bridge is a very exciting place to be, and Lava has been a huge help to me.
Awesome, thank you. So Sunny, can you walk us through your investment thesis and strategy in the startup space? And what are some of the key aspects of a prospective investment that you look for?
So a few different criteria, and in order of importance, typically it's the team that I look at first. Doesn't matter which stage we're at, the team is the first thing I'd look at. And so the investment criteria for me is the team background, their experience running a similar startup, their industry experience, ability to change during hardship, their references. I'll typically like to call at least someone they worked with or the customers they're working with. So team is the first one. And then I go with traction. So I look at traction next. And finally, I look at the market size. I don't even look at the product till the end. So it's market size and traction and team. These are the three big ones. The reason I do that is most of the times the product I've seen changes dramatically from seed to series A, B, C, D. It's very unusual that you'd see the same product going all the way through with no changes, unless of course we're talking medical technology. That's a specific industry where, you know, your initial thesis and your clinical research, they all line up and the final product tends to be similar. But most other consumer products or even enterprise products change a lot. So products very fluid, and so I keep that out. But the team hopefully doesn't change a lot, you know, because if the founding team changes, that's a bad sign. The traction, that tells me if there's product market fit. And finally, the market size. So that's important only because if you have a very small market size, you could be the best team with the best traction, but you're not going to grow. And for venture capitalists and angel investors, that ultimate exit, the ability to scale is very important. You know, to Paul's point, if you could scale a little slower and in a more sustainable way, it probably would be better for the whole ecosystem. But that ultimate ability to scale still needs to be there. So those are the major things I look for.
So what then are some of the red flags that the investor or you should be able to spot early on when evaluating a deal?
Again, so exact opposite of what I said. Small market, inexperienced team. Those are red flags. And of course, if you have traction, typically isn't a red flag. It's just something that you need more investigation with, especially at the early stages. You might have other metrics to show traction, even if you don't have revenue, or you might have, you know, initial focus groups, you might have industry experience. All of these count towards traction because they're relevant. So traction, lack of traction is typically not a red flag, but I would say a core team that's inexperienced and, you know, and a market that's small, these are typically red flags. And one of the biggest mistakes I see with early pitch decks is they don't analyze their markets correctly. They'll put market numbers that make no sense because these numbers are top line numbers that they're never going to reach. And they're also, so most of the founders, I'll tell them, look at your serviceable market. Don't look at the total addressable market because it doesn't mean much. You're never going to reach that and your product's never going to service that. So market analysis is something I look at very carefully. And if I see lots of mistakes there, tells me that the team is probably inexperienced or they're not telling me everything. These are the major red flags. Financials don't matter much at the early stage. They're never 100% of the time they're wrong. So
yeah, those are great points. one thing, and if you can speak to this a little bit about the correct way to gauge the market via, let's say, TAM, SAM, and SOM. There's a lot of maybe misinformation out there on how to do that correctly.
Yes.
Do you have a couple notes on how to do that correctly?
Yeah, so without getting into too much detail, I would say the market, the way you should look at market is, what are your top line revenues if you were able to service every single customer that is a customer that will use your product. Essentially, if you had your customer phenotype and you were able to catch all of them, what's your top line revenue? That should be your market. It shouldn't be, some heuristic number that you read somewhere and then you did some fractional math on it, and this is your there has to be a direct relationship between your product and customer, and you should be able to justify that relationship and show me how you can sell to that customer in an ideal world. That's how I would define market. Most people go at market from, like top down. I always go bottoms up, and then you reach a much better number.
Yeah, thanks for that. I hope people are taking notes, and definitely to your point about your investment strategy, those key points, traction, team, are included in our criteria for today. So it's good to hear. So for Jamila, this one's for you. How has your background in media and entertainment shaped your perspective on the crossroads of entrepreneurship and technology?
It has in a couple of different ways. First off, I started the Hollywood chapter of Startup Grind, just as a person who, had been working in entertainment PR, working with film studios and creating campaigns for them and celebrities and athletes for years, just out of curiosity, because I wanted to educate myself in tech. I know I'm definitely, everyone here on the judge panel has a much deeper tech background than I have, but I developed the chapter, just like I said, out of curiosity, wanting to educate myself, and noticing that, when I did go to some of these networking groups, it was somewhat of a boys club, in tech. It was not very diverse, in the aspects of having women or people of color in the room. And I wanted to create that here, in Hollywood. So I would talk to a lot of other founders who were like, yeah, I don't feel comfortable in those rooms. So that was, one of the other reasons we wanted to create a safe place for them to go, and network, and then not feel uncomfortable if you're not super techie, because everybody's not, you know what I mean? And everybody doesn't speak the language, but this is a place to learn about it and to ask questions that you don't feel stupid asking, to certain people, because I think that's just one of the biggest things that I saw, that people that were in entertainment or in other industries that wanted to get into tech felt stupid asking certain questions, or just, they would stay away from it. It deterred them because of those reasons. So getting into it at a very early age, and just seeing how a lot of the tech companies were coming here to Hollywood. We have Silicon Beach, of course, in Santa Monica and Venice area, where there's a lot of the emerging tech companies, or there were, but now they're in Hollywood, especially when Netflix moved here. So I was like, this is going to be a cross sector. Entertainment and tech, is going to merge, which is heavily doing now. A lot of the more streaming companies that we have, Hulu and, Amazon, everything you can do with technology, obviously. So what I thought was coming came, but also talking to a lot of founders, and a lot of investors as well. One of the things that I noticed that was very crucial, and left out was the PR, standpoint, was the PR aspect of some of the business, and helping founders tell their stories. Because a lot of times it's like, okay, I've got my funding, and we're about to get office space, or, we're going to do our hires. What do we do now? And it's like, a lot of the times, a lot of them don't know how to go about getting PR so that they can get those articles to get the more attention of investors. A lot of them are just like into their business. So that's one of the things that I feel like I helped a lot with. I help a lot of people in my community when they find out that I have a PR background, is they come to me and ask, how can I get, the article in Entrepreneur or Forbes or, TechCrunch, whatever it is. And yeah, that's one of the things that I think is just really important for people to remember when they are funding their business. They should do their own PR to save money, from the beginning while they're scaling. Do as much as you possibly can on your own before you probably hire a company. I'd say hire a consultant first, and then maybe hire a company when you start scaling more and have more revenue coming in.
So I'll ask this next one kind of in the context of what now after you have some funding or some traction when it comes to PR or branding. You were recently featured in a Forbes article about the future of events relating to storytelling and brand diversification. Can you tell us a little bit more about your ideas for how events, virtual or otherwise, should be presented considering current trends?
Absolutely. And I will say that I'm so excited about the return of in-person events. Some people may not be. Excuse me, but I am. But what I'm saying is that, and this is what we're actually going to start using here until we get to July, when they're saying that things are going to be opening up more, but is the hybrid model. And that means that we're going to have a certain amount of people that are going to be here in person, and then everyone else is going to be streaming. So that hybrid model, will allow some people to be able to still get that, that one-on-one connection with the speakers that we have, who are also investors, executives, and different people that they don't have the opportunity to have access to on a normal basis. But I think that that's great to, at least give some people that opportunity to still get that face-to-face contact. And the other thing that I'd say is partnerships are crucial. When it comes to events right now. We have a partnership, and that was one of the things they were talking about in the Forbes article, is the work and the partnership that we are doing with Soho Works, which is a co-working space that's owned by Soho House. And partnerships are just very crucial because it allows you to be able to increase more of, the number of events that you're having. And it also allows the co-working space or whoever it is that you're partnered with to also reach their audience on a broader scale as well. And to use an example of what we're doing here is they have kind of like, not had as many events during the pandemic, obviously, but we are helping them to bring in that program while they can also focus on their membership and give added value to their members as well.
Yeah, great points. Thank you. So Patrick,
Sure.
You've had a ton of experience supporting both sides of the entrepreneurship kind of operation equation, the startup and the investor. So when it comes to due diligence from the investor perspective, can you dive into a couple critical elements that entrepreneurs should understand going into conversations with investors to not only, say, improve their pitch, but also to understand investor expectations?
Sure. The first thing that I think really needs to be clarified is a narrative. Basically, have a narrative, a story, an arc where you cover all of the key kind of the key parts that Sunny referred to. So your team, the product, the market. Make sure that it's not only clear to you. Also pull in external devil's advocates to kind of review your pitch around that narrative to make sure it makes sense to someone who's not in the weeds. A lot of times founders can't see out from the weeds, so they can't kind of take an external perspective on what they're the story they're trying to tell, their pitch essentially. So that would be the first thing I would say. Be very clear also about your personal capabilities in terms of a founding team, which is the most important part, or the most important variable in making an investment decision, in my opinion, as well. Have kind of self-knowledge, do a SWOT analysis on yourself to understand your weaknesses and figure out how a co-founder or somebody else on your team can help fill that gap. So proving that you're self-aware is another huge piece, specifically for early stage founders if you're looking for investment. And especially if you don't come from kind of the stereotypical historical founder background. So be able to really make that argument as to why you're going to be the next big thing, why your product, your team is going to be successful. Those would be the two most important pieces specifically for early stage companies, I would say. And honestly, for investors, a lot of investors, specifically emerging fund managers, which I'm actually putting on an event for Startout right now, focusing on empowering emerging fund managers. They're figuring out how to do and conduct due diligence on startups. So founders can interestingly think about that for specifically small funds. Like oftentimes GPs don't necessarily know how to conduct due diligence just as much as founders don't quite know how to do their pitch. So it's a two-way street. So understanding that there's kind of a human dynamic on the side of the investor is also important to remember when you're having that conversation. It's a lot of practice that goes into due diligence from the investor side. But if it's a new GP, general partner, if it's a new fund manager, something along those lines, you can expect it to be more of a conversation where you're both learning, since not every GP is a complete expert. Even folks with 100 deals under their belt are still learning from the investor side. So take that into consideration.
So can you tell us a little bit more about your awesome work with the LGBTQ plus entrepreneurship community and any key trends or developments that we should keep a pulse on?
Sure. Actually, Startout is coming out with a great report focusing on diversity and LGBTQ plus entrepreneurs, the SPEII report. I'm blanking on what the acronym stands for, so forgive me, but you can search startout.org for more information. Some trends that we're seeing is that the data that's been collected thus far for the report indicates that investment into LGBTQ plus founders is still very, very, very low. That being said, it's part of a community. Any underrepresented group is going to, you can find communities which are going to empower you as a founder to find investment, to find co-founders, to find business development opportunities, those types of things. So rely on your community members as much as you can. For the LGBTQ plus community, there's Startout, there's Gangels, there's Pride Fund. There's a lot of, I know SoGal Ventures, Backstage Capital. There's a ton of diversity focused funds that specifically target LGBTQ plus founders. So make sure you know about those folks. There's access to successful former founders that have exited 3-4 companies from the LGBTQ plus community or other underrepresented communities. Try to seek out them for mentorship for options, and just get involved, deep dive, network. Because if you're coming from the non-traditional background, you need unfortunately still to fight an uphill battle, and relying on your community is only going to put kind of velocity behind your back with the help from folks like you, and that's very true in the LGBTQ plus community.
Great. And just for those in the audience that might not be familiar with BMNT, can you walk us through just a little bit about what they do and maybe the lab that you're involved with as eventually?
Yeah, absolutely. So it started out curating problems from the government, from the DoD, Homeland Security, various federal agencies, and then taking a commercial private sector approach to solving them. So kind of a consulting bent at the beginning. Recently, we've been diving more into startup ecosystems and tech, and my program specifically is a strategic innovation project where we put about $1 million into enterprise software companies that potentially could solve government problems once they get to a stage where it makes sense for them to work with the government. So Series C is generally what we like to. We tell companies to wait until they're at Series C to take the government on, because the government can be a little bit of a resource suck in terms of time and commitment. That being said, they need all the help they can get. Additionally, there's H4X Labs, which started initially to empower these programs called Hacking for Defense, Hacking for Homeland Security, which are at the university level with master's students and PhD students, to give teams of students government problems, and then they'll come up with solutions as part of a course. And after several instances of this being quite successful, these teams of students realized that they could turn this into a successful business. So H4X Labs was kind of created to help them in the business develop, how to create the business around the idea, to actually source the solutions for these problems. And now it's growing even more so. We have a strong portfolio of dual use companies, which continues to grow. And then actually, I'll pitch this here. We're looking for a new accelerator manager. So if anyone knows of someone with accelerator manager experience, feel free to reach out to me, specifically around dual use companies. So we're going to really grow that program this year with some new cohorts. So it's a great organization, and we've grown a ton in the past couple of years.
That's awesome. Thanks for that.
Sure.
So fantastic. So that closes our discussion for today. We're doing pretty good for time. Thank you, everyone, for the great insight. But now it is time to get to pitching. So our startups for today, in order of pitch sequence, and remember they each have only 3 minutes to pitch. We're starting off with DocFlow. DocFlow is the most user-friendly solution for maritime logistics collaboration, presented by co-founder Troy Marchand. Stratio Inc. next is bringing infrared vision to the mass market with an AI-assisted visible and infrared imaging solution for quality inspection applications, presented by co-founder Jay Lee. Next, we have Martixa, an AI assistant that helps doctors completing clinical documentation accurately and efficiently instead of manual note-taking. That will be presented by co-founder Juan Haldin. Next, we have Extremity. Extremity is a video platform with more customization than YouTube and less cost than Vimeo, allowing content creators to monetize in a whole new way. This will be presented by co-founder Charlotte Barge. And last but not least, we have Star News Mobile, a network of mobile video channels that allows celebrities and brands to monetize their fan bases in Africa. And that will be presented by Guy, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering this, Guy, Come Gang. So please, DocFlow, get your slides ready, and you will be allowed to share your screen in 1 moment.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to share my screen.
And let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. I think that my screen is visible right now?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, I see people nodding. Okay, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Troy from DocFlow, pitching live from Antwerp, Belgium, where it's already quite late in the evening, as you can see. But I'm very glad that I can pitch to you. I've already learned a lot from the interesting panel. So please let me introduce myself and our company. DocFlow is the first logistics enablement platform, which means that we have software that focuses on a bottom-up approach. We really focus on logistics teams, and we make them work more efficiently and pleasantly so they can provide customers better service and focus on meaningful tasks. What we actually mean is that maritime logisticians, we want to improve their output and reduce their input, make it possible for them to manage more cargo while putting in less effort. Because right now, these days, they have to put in a lot of effort to find out the most basic things, like where are my containers? They spend at least 1 to 2 hours per day figuring out where their containers are. They have to rely on public websites with inaccurate data, and they keep track of the data in Excel sheets, which is not the best software to do that. And also, a lot of things go wrong with those containers. We know from conversations with logistics organizations that at least 1 container is lost each year, and these containers are worth around 50,000 euros on average. Now we can solve these problems because we make this container black box, we transform it into a transparent box where you know everything there is to know about the container. We aggregate data together, visualize it, and update you with the most important things. If you have 1,000 containers in the water, we will notify you of the 2 containers that require your attention. And it's a very interesting market. It's a booming market. There are a lot of acquisitions, a lot of funding happening, but we are different than most of these players because we focus on the SME segment. This is an underserved segment and it's very profitable. And second of all, we focus on exception management. And that's a very important one because what we see right now in logistics is that these softwares are more general, more generic. And we know that one size does not fit all in logistics. In logistics, there are many different organizations who all require specifics. And that's why our solution is very customizable and configurable by users themselves. Now, where are we now in our company journey, and what are we looking for? Well, we are actually actively looking to raise funds. We're looking to raise 1 million by the end of this year. Reason is that we have found our product market fit and have gained quite some traction in the last few months. So we're ready for expansion. We have, like I said on the previous slide, we have quite some traction. We offer a paid trial and it's being tested by a lot of different companies right now. And like I said, we focus on the SME segment, but actually even large companies like Shell, ArcelorMittal, Umicore are actively testing our software. This is the team, 6 people, very enthusiastic, driven by a passion for logistics. And I would love to discuss this more in detail if there is any interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Troy. Right on time. So now we'll open it up for 2 minutes of judge questions. Take it away.
Hey, this is Patrick. Quick question just around your technology and kind of intellectual property. Is there any sort of patents or protection that you have in place around location as a service?
No patent yet. We have our algorithm, which is of course our business secret, but there's no patent yet.
Are you looking to get one or?
Yeah, we're actively looking for it.
Troy, could you tell me a little bit more about your go-to-market strategy? I saw you have a few trials going with larger enterprises, but you said you're focusing on SMEs. So what is your actual sales strategy here? Are you going after the big fish or the smaller ones?
Yeah, so our ICP is actually a company between 25 and 200 employees. So it's more the medium-sized enterprises. Our go-to-market is mostly inside sales. Tends to work quite well with that segment. And we also have quite some inbound leads. Now, from the inbound leads, we also get these big fish that find out that they're struggling with the same problems as the mid segment. So that's how it happened.
Thank you.
Hi, Troy. I had a question just on making sure I'm understanding the value that you're providing. You gave one example of like a lost container costing like $50,000. What else have you done to quantify like the benefit of a customer using DocFlow as opposed to just staying with like the status quo?
Yeah, so I would define our solution as a painkiller because right now logistics teams go through a lot of pain. First of all, retrieving information takes a lot of time away, but also it creates costs because one very concrete example, you rent a container can stand still for an agreed amount of time at the port. But because of things that go wrong, like ships being delayed or sailings being canceled, your containers keep staying idle at the port. If you have 1,000 containers each month, or each week, you have no clue where your containers are standing idle. And we figure that out, we notify you, and we can prevent a lot of costs. Like we see around 20% reduction in those costs per year.
Great, thank you, Troy and judges. That closes our judge discussion for DocFlow. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
So next we have Stratio. Jay, please have your slides ready and let me know when you're good to go.
All right. Can everybody see my slides?
Yes.
All right, then I will start. Hello, everyone. My name is Jay. I'm a co-founder and CEO at Stratio. Our company has been around for more than 7 years, so we're pretty old, right? That means we did a lot of things to survive so far. We actually make AI. We also make a spectroscopy around the world, and we have lots of customers around the world. And we're pretty famous in the optical area if you're looking into those specific things. But all those effort is just to make one thing, the infrared sensor and the camera. And I want to talk about our upcoming camera. And I want to share what's the next 2 or 3 years that's coming for our company Stratio. So because of the COVID-19, thermal imaging camera become quite famous for the layman people. It actually measures the temperature for a human being, right? But if you look into more specific about the IR, there are another type of IR called SWIR, short-wave infrared imaging. With that IR image sensor, you can actually see a lot of things. You can actually see through the wafers, see through the lot of surface, and you can also see through the foggy and dusty days. So lots of military and the self-driving car are trying to adapt this technology for degraded vision area. But the problem is it's super expensive. It's not a visible sensor that's already put into the smartphone. So you have to pay a lot of prices to use this technology. Sometimes it can go above 50,000 US dollar or above 100,000 US dollar if you want to buy the good one. Our sensor is totally using different technology. We use different structure, different materials. So if we become successful, the SWIR camera itself is going to be less than 1,000 US dollar. So it's going to be a game-changing technology. So that was the reason why our founding team has focused this technology for over 7 years, doing a lot of things to survive so far. So dual uses, of course, US military is trying to use this kind of technology for a lot of things. They want to detect the threats. They want to see on the foggy and dusty days. And self-driving, not only for the commercial car, but for the tank and armed car to drive through the forest and the dusty deserts. But of course, there are a lot of use case for the commercial market as well, as for the precision farming, medical uses, and plastic sorting. These areas were limited by the expensive sensor technology, but if we can make it possible, this area is going to be opened up with the new technology like what we're doing. So, so far we raised about 9 million, and our revenue size is about 1 million every year. We got the NSF SPR funding, Air Force funding, Army SPR funding. A lot of effort is trying to just make one thing, SWIR camera, and we are very glad that we already launched 11x8 camera, and the real commercial thing is going to come in the next few weeks. And that's the reason why I'm trying to reach out to more investors these days. We've been being very quiet for the last 4 to 5 years because I wanted to make the camera first, but now it's the right timing to reach out. I thought it's the right timing to reach out to the potential investor to the company. So
sorry, Jay, you have about 10 seconds.
Yeah, there are a few demo videos, but I'll skip this for now. We also made a fab to make the whole thing. So it's in the San Jose area. So we're very glad about this. So most of our founding team are from Stanford, and we're very passionate and enthusiastic about our technology and our upcoming products. So thank you.
Thank you, Jay from Stratio. So I'll open up the judge questions for Sharon and Jamila first. If you do not have questions, please yield and we'll move on.
Okay, I do have questions. So you already have sales, correct, you said?
Yeah, so we have the sales size about 1 million, but that's from the different product spectroscopy that we're selling around the world, and that's different kind of technology. But that's not the core product we were trying to make. We had to make it because 8-year-old startup, you have to show some traction, you have to show you can survive, blah blah blah. So we made a few different products to survive, but the core technology of our company is the IR camera that's going to be launched within a few weeks from now.
Okay, and then what about chip availability? Silicon chips. Are you concerned about that?
Yeah, so a lot of people are talking about the shortage, right? TSMC is basically making it the chips for everyone, like Apple and Qualcomm, blah blah blah. Because of that, it's really hard for you to get into those kind of big foundry if you want to make your own, right? So because of that, we had to make our own foundry within the North San Jose area. So we actually own a small foundry. Since I'm an expert in the semiconductor by education, so I could build a foundry with about 4 million US dollar, which is worth more than 10 million by the foundry itself. And we're actually fabricating a few things for the big corp like Plasma Therm, Microsoft, and we have a few other customers who are using our foundry. And because of the small foundry, we had to also outsource some of the partners in the Silicon Valley area. So we're using some of the foundry in the area too. But they're small sites, so we don't have to go to Samsung. We don't have to go to TSMC. We don't have to go to Towers S to make our own sensor. That's a
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, and I just wanted to know what are some of the major differences in your competitors that you mentioned here that are already on the market?
Yeah, so FLIR and US Tech is the biggest company in the area. They use indium gallium arsenide base for camera, and their camera price is about 20,000 to 100,000 US dollar, which is very expensive to use for the commercial market. So they're only limited to the big corp or the military market. Our sensor use totally different material and structure. Because of that, our cost is much cheaper, but I don't know about the price yet because we don't have to go match the price to the cost. So our cost is definitely less than a few $100. And the price is the question, what's the price we want to do? So the first price I'm thinking about is about $1,000 US. So it's already 20 times cheaper than the existing one. So once it started, I think we can totally disrupt the market, which is already $2 billion US market. Only in the US, it's 2 billion. I don't know if the whole world, because of there's an ITAR issue, so I don't know. I can go direct to the whole world market, but at least we can target the US alliance market, and that's more than 2 to 3 billion, I guess.
Thank you,
Wow,
Jay.
okay.
And that closes the judge discussion for Stratio. Thank you. So next up, we have Martixa.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Very nice to meet you all. I would like to share my screen. If you can allow me, Tim, please.
You should be able to share.
Oh, all right. Now I can. Thank you. All right.
Let me know when you're ready.
Can everybody see my screen now?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. I'm ready. So my name is Juan Pablo. I'm CEO and co-founder of Martixa, the AI assistant for healthcare. So accurate clinical documentation is the most common cause of burnout among doctors, and also it can end up in suicide. Accurate clinical documentation takes too much time, around 4 hours a day for each doctor to complete. And also it is annoying for the patient experience. The solution, Martixa, is an AI smart assistant that helps doctors completing the clinical documentation accurately and efficiently, so doctors can focus on what matters, the patient, and forget about the clinical documentation. How it works? We use automatic speech recognition in whenever there is an interaction between physician and patient. We capture the speech and we transcribe it into text. As you can see, these are a screenshot of a real demo, actually. So from there, we organize the data we get from the information we get from the patient. We understand very well the clinical and medical terminology, as you can see, because we're gonna analyze this using natural language processing to get a strong and powerful insights to the doctor for the long term, also to improve the long-term outcomes for each patient. As you can see, there, after the medical visit is done, the doctor just can edit whatever he has to edit or add in the patient note, and then it can be easily exported, as you can see, to the EHR, or just download it as a PDF file if it wants. So the market size we are achieving as with Martixa, or with pursuing with Martixa, is the AI healthcare market, which is 31.3 billion. The business model, we ask for a monthly flat fee subscription of $50 per doctor or user. The traction, we've been using this AI assistant in over 20,000 AI assisted consultations in office and with telemedicine. Currently, 107 doctors are using our AI assistant. We're looking for funding for 12 months to reach 20,000 users, which will result in $1 million in revenue. And this is my team. Myself, I'm a doctor with over 5 years of experience as a primary care physician. And Elisa is the specialist in sales and marketing. Alfredo with over 13 years of experience as a software engineer and expert in machine learning. Osvaldo also a software engineer, and Camila a marketing and sales specialist. We all been working together for the past 10 years in the healthcare industry, and we are a very complementary team. And as you can see, we know very well each other, especially with the co-founders, because we're siblings. So we've been working for a long time in this industry.
Thank you, Juan. You're
Actually, it's
at
our
time.
actually that's our second startup, and that's it. This is Martixa, the AI assistant for healthcare. I would love to answer any question you may have. Thank you so much.
Judges.
Juan, you said this is your second startup. What was your first startup, just quickly, and where did that go?
Sure. Medistore was our it's a marketplace for doctors and providers. So we deliver medical supplies for doctors, and we got acquired for another big manufacturer company.
What was the name? I'm sorry, it broke up. What was the name of the first startup?
The name of the Medistore. Medistore. I'm gonna type it.
Got it.
I'm gonna write it here.
Thank you.
Also, guys, if you would like to see a real demo, just send me an email. I would love to show you how it works, this AI assistant. And that's it.
I have a quick question. How are you approaching your go-to-market? Are you going to large hospital chains? Are you looking at individual practitioners? What's your go-to-market strategy around sales?
For now, we are leveraging our experience for more than 10 years in the healthcare industry. We're working right now with the big hospitals. We just ended up a pilot in SUNY Downstate here in Brooklyn. And now we are starting running another pilot in a cancer center also in Brooklyn. So our main strategy is to first deploy this AI assistant in big hospitals, because we can create rapport to doctors with this AI assistant, and then we're gonna be by the end of Q2 we're gonna be selling directly to private settings as well. That means private practitioners, small clinics, and yes,
Thank
that's
you,
how
Juan.
we're
So
going
that
to market.
closes it off for Martixa.
Thank you.
So thank you, Juan. So next we have Extremity. Charlotte, get your slides ready and take it away.
All right, I am ready. Shall I start?
Yes, please. Do you have slides?
Yes, they're not up?
No.
Oh, sorry, I think I forgot to click share screen.
Thanks, Charlotte.
Now they're up?
Yes.
Perfect. Hello, everyone. My name is Charlotte Barge. I am one of the founders of Extremity. Extremity is a video sharing platform that allows anyone with video content, live and on demand, to monetize it with ads and subscriptions, but with lower cost than companies like Vimeo and more customization than companies like YouTube. The company was founded in Q3 of 2018. We launched our first streaming network in Q2 of 2019. And today we have 10 partners with thousands of paying recurring subscribers. The problem we are solving is small content creators like fitness trainers, motivational speakers, production companies, influencers. They must choose between platforms that are easy to launch but have no customization, and those that are fully customizable but have huge price tags. Extremity is uniquely positioned in the void between the custom solutions on the right that are expensive to launch and maintain and have long lead times to market, and the aggregators on the left who offer content creators no customization, little branding, and no visibility. Our solution is different. We give our content creators a website on their domain as well as apps, and they can customize them using our semi-custom skins and add their own logos, taglines, and imagery. Here are two of the unlimited design possibilities. We have no upfront cost, and we bundle everything they need. We're powered by the same infrastructure as Amazon Prime Video, and we have a global payment processing and distribution system. In fact, we have content creators selling content in Africa, Switzerland, and other parts of the globe. We support adult content on our separate explicit brand so we don't stigmatize our non-adult creators. The platform generates revenue in 4 areas, but the lion's share comes from selling ads to advertisers. And when consumers subscribe to premium content offered by our creators, we take a piece of every subscription. Let's talk trashing. Our month-over-month revenues from January of 2020 to 2021 increased nearly 300% to about $10,000. Our year-over-year revenues from 2019 to 2020 increased more than 700% to about $100,000. But this is only from recurring subscription revenue. Ad revenue is yet to come. My partner, Dennis Calhoun, and I have more than 3 decades of streaming video experience, and we've worked for Fortune 500 companies like Cisco, AT&T, IBM, and NBC Universal. I also have previous founder experience. Thank you for your interest in Extremity.
Thank you, Charlotte. Right on time. Nice job. So, judges, open to you now.
Charlotte, could you tell me how much you're raising and what are the use of proceeds for this company?
So our goal is to raise $1 million in the short term. We're at the beginning of that raise cycle, and we ultimately want to use that to do 2 things. We want to expand out our marketing efforts, which includes building a direct ad sales team, as well as getting more traction on the platform by finding better, more powerful ways to market. And then secondly, we want to use it to add more service offerings, to add more features to the platform.
Hi,
Thank you.
Charlotte.
Hello.
I'd like to know how you said that you guys currently have subscribers right now.
Yeah.
What that you may have mentioned this and maybe I missed it and I apologize if I did, but I was just wondering, are you guys running ads? Have you gotten the subscribers as a result of running ads, or how are you marketing to get these subscribers?
So it's funny you ask, because subscribers and partners are different. Our customers are partners, and our partners' customers are subscribers. So to market to partners, before the pandemic, we're going to in-person events, which is where we got the vast majority of our traction. And since the pandemic, we started running ads on social media as well as Google. But from the subscriber perspective, our partners generally bring the subscribers because they're selling content. So they have a fan base, and that fan base represents the subscribers. So we generally don't really market directly to subscribers. We market to partners.
Okay.
Is that clear?
Great. So it's been organic growth with it.
Yes.
Mostly in the, okay, great. Thank you.
I have a quick question. You probably have seen like an uptick in personal fitness trainers and stuff in COVID. Do you have any plan of action for when the world opens up to maintain these types of influencers or content creators?
So the majority of our content creators are not fitness trainers. We include that genre for people. I think it was actually Jamila who mentioned earlier that this hybrid model might be what we come back to. So we're hoping that there's still a facility for fitness trainers who want to train people in their homes or when they travel who can't actually get to the gym. So I think there's still a market there, but our strongest market space happens to be with like web series content. That's actually our #1 partner right now. He's too small, to get his content on Netflix, and he can't really afford Vimeo. So we're in the sweet spot in between.
Thank you, Charlotte. So next we have Star News Mobile. Guy, whenever you're ready.
Can you hear me, Tim?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you ready with your slides?
Yeah, you stopped the video, so I can't start the video, but I can share my screen. Okay,
Yes, please
good.
go ahead.
Yeah, let me share my screen. You guys let me know when you see it.
Good to go.
See it.
Good. Hey, everybody. So my name is Guy Gang. I'm the founder of Star News Mobile. We're a platform that has figured out how to successfully monetize content in Africa and similar mobile-only markets from Los Angeles. So the story starts in Africa. Let me see. Go to the next slide. Okay, so the story takes us to Africa because Africa is the fastest growing market in the world today. It is where China and India were some 20 years ago. So the potential is huge. And here's a problem. There's millions of very talented content creators who are unfortunately unable to make money from their content. Meanwhile, there's hundreds of millions of people, mobile consumers, who are unable to enjoy this amazing local content because smartphones and data is too expensive. So we had to create a single platform that would solve both problems. So we did that. We built it. We took it to market with mobile operators because mobile operators can control the digital game. Our platform enables mobile users to enjoy relevant local content at a subscription price they can afford without paying for data. And the subscription revenues are shared with the content providers. So we've basically created a new commercially viable model for content monetization globally. The pain is huge. So it's felt by hundreds of millions of people in Africa alone. But this problem also exists in other similar markets. So the global audience for our solution is probably around 3 billion people. It's huge. So this is not a proof of concept. We have over 10 million users all time, 2.3 million active. We're generating $500,000 a month only in a few markets today. So the next slide really talks about where we're going to be in the next 3 to 5 years. We're going to build the largest Pan-African mobile media platform. We'll have 50 million subscribers. We'll be generating about $400 million in gross revenues. Only about 5% of the market in Africa. And if we get crazy, we might go into Latin America and Southeast Asia. We have the best product market fit. On the one side, we have carriers, and on the other side, we have the biggest content producers in the region, including Universal, Sony, and all these guys, and more to come. And we can do this because we're based in Los Angeles. We're in the capital of media and content. We have experienced staff in 5 countries today. Our management team is solid. We understand the market. We have world-class advisors and investors, including Snapchat. So we recently closed our seed round, so we have runway, but we want to move even faster. We want to be more aggressive. So we've decided to raise up to $2 million now and push our Series A to Q3 of 2022. And our vision is really large. We focus on video today, but our goal is to monetize all types of digital content in Africa: games, music, education, health, and be the leader of mobile advertising revenues when the market is ready for it, which is not the case today.
Thank you, Guy. You're actually at time.
There you go. So more happy to tell you more.
Judges.
Hey, Guy, good to see you. Thanks for the presentation. A quick question here. You have some really prominent existing investors. Is this round open to them? Are they leading this, or is it a different deal?
So that's a good question. Look, we just had a board meeting a few weeks ago when we decided to do this round. We just closed the round, so they'll probably participate. We'll see. You know, I don't have an answer yet.
Thank you.
Hi, Guy. Jamila here. I love that you have a subscription revenue shared model for your content producers. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that's really the core problem that I was trying to solve. When I go to travel around the world, and primarily Africa, content producers are really, really very talented and they're broke. So the idea was to create a viable model for them. You may think of it as a Patreon or Twitch or maybe OnlyFans here, but we did it the African way. We did it the mobile only market way, working with the telcos and figuring out the right price model so they can create content and get paid on day one. YouTube doesn't monetize in most of these markets. So we had to come up with a solution where content creators are getting money and like money, not points or whatever. for the content that they're creating, and that's what we're able to do working with the telcos.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Guy. So that rounds off all of our 5 top finalists for this first iteration of the lightning round. We're going to give it about maybe 30 seconds to a minute for the judges to complete their judging scorecard, and we'll be able to tell you who won momentarily. Perfect. So the scores have come in, and this was actually pretty close. So good job to everyone. And so there we have it. It was pretty close. So congratulations to Star News Mobile. In a close second, we had Extremity. So congratulations to you both. And believe it or not, DocFlow Stratio coming in just a few points under, and Martixa even just a slimmer margin from there. So congratulations to Star News Mobile. That wraps up our fast pitch. Congrats. And thank you again to each of our judges, and thank you for your great questions and discussion earlier. It was a pleasure to have you. Star News, we will follow up with you after for the prizes. Thanks everyone for coming.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, everybody. Available for more questions.
Thanks, Guy. Say hi to Brian.
Oh, yeah. I will, absolutely.
Oh, I was on mute. Sorry. I said congratulations and looking forward to seeing you in the market.
Yeah.
Startup Brian, I want to be part of it because I want to get some Hollywood content over to Africa. You can help me there.
For sure. I'll put my email in the chat.
All right.
Thanks, everyone. This has been
Thank
great.
you. Thank you. Thanks a lot. That was wonderful.
And congratulations just to everyone for putting their time and energy. Everyone was amazing and have really strong teams.
Mm.